What's funny is that I actually didn't want to be a CPA. So when I got to school freshman year, I was a finance major.
Thank you so much for the interview today. Could you please just introduce a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Zach Gollin. I'm 22 years old. I'm from New Jersey. I have a bachelor's in business administration from Hofstra University, which I just got this past May 2020. So I'm one of the COVID graduates. I'm going to be working at KPMG in New York City. I'm going to be an associate in their advisory practice. I just found out I passed my last portion of the CPA last week, or about a week, 2 weeks ago. Super excited to be here interviewing with you and to help people out.
What was the most difficult exam section for you?
So the most difficult section for me was definitely regulation. And that was because at school, like I had mentioned, I went to Hofstra University. Great accounting program there. It just so happens that one of the professors that I had, their teaching style and the way that I learn didn't really match up. And that just happened to be for my income tax class. So I didn't really feel like I retained a lot of information for that. And then I took a second income tax class, and that was last spring during the COVID semester where things went virtual all of a sudden. And I had a very good professor. Just again, with the virtual learning and the sudden switch, did make it a little bit difficult to retain a lot of that information. So that was one of the things that it was the most challenging because I didn't have a great base for it. So unlike some of the other sections, it was kind of a fresh wealth of knowledge that I was taking in. So what I did for it was I allotted the most amount of time for it. I took my audit exam in June, early June. I took my reg exam end of August. So I had like two and a half months. I took a little bit of a break. I was a little bit lazy for about a week or two after the audit exam before I really got studying and started cracking into that reg book. But I made sure I allotted the most amount of time for it so that I could get through all the information, I could review it again, I could figure out what I'm not getting and do all these practice for it. Another thing that I'm extremely lucky to have is two CPA parents who have their own. Yeah, I have two parents who are CPAs. They have their own little practice. They do income tax work for over 300 clients just between the two of them. They work extremely hard. And so every now and then I'd have a topic that I didn't understand or a question. I'd be like, Mom, she'd come on in and she'd explain it to me. So I'm extremely lucky to have them, and they definitely helped. They were a little bit disappointed that the stuff that they do was the stuff I was having the most trouble with, but ended up being, I think, my second highest score of any test. So I made sure I prepared, I understood it, and I over prepared. So I was happy with the way. I was definitely challenged by it, but I was happy with my result.
Wow, you have two CPAs in the family. Mom and dad, that's a huge advantage. Oh my gosh, is that because why you choose to be a CPA?
What's funny is that I actually didn't want to be a CPA. So when I got to school freshman year, I was a finance major. And that's all I wanted to study. I didn't know that much about it, but I wanted to study finance because somebody had recommended it to me. I came in with a couple of AP credits from high school, so I knew I wanted to declare a minor. And then a friend of mine who's actually at PwC, was a very, very smart guy. He's also passed all 4 parts of the CPA exam. He was kind of my mentor for it, and he was just like, hey, why don't you try out accounting? And I was like, I don't know, my parents do that. I'm not really interested. But I had taken, because all business students really had to take at least accounting 1 and 2. So I had taken it, and just the numbers were in my blood. It just made sense to me. It was very, very easy. Or at least not easy, but it came naturally. I was able to understand it. It was logical to me. So they didn't, impress on me all of this CPA and accounting knowledge when I was growing up, but it's definitely somewhere in there just from them doing all of it. So I didn't want to, but they were pretty happy with the choice I made to end up going for it.
I'm just curious if they ever advised you, hey Jack, you should go to be a CPA, or you just see what they have done and they say, I don't want to follow their path?
Well, I'm one of 4 kids, and they definitely wanted if it was going to be any of me or my siblings, if they were going to pass off their practice to one of us. I think they wanted it to be me, but they didn't pressure me. They said, do what you want to do, go ahead. And then what ended up happening was just I got this opportunity from KPMG, and it was kind of an off the whim thing. It was just after I decided to double major in finance and accounting, and they asked, can you get 150 credits and be CPA eligible by the time you graduate? I didn't know if I could be. I hadn't looked into it. I just said yes. And what ended up happening was that kind of kicked me in the butt because I had to squeeze 150 credits into 4 years, which was extra work, extra classes, summer and winter classes. But I got there and here I am.
The next question I would like to ask is, in what order did you take the CPA exam? And do you have any reason why you picked that order?
I took the exams, financial accounting and reporting, FAR, then audit, then regulation, and then business environment concepts, BEC. I took them in that order. I think a couple people, like I said, I had that one friend that was kind of my mentor for it, and he said, it's a good idea to take FAR first because it's the hardest, it has the most information. If you could do that, you could do any of the other ones. And at the time, I had no idea what that meant, but I said, okay. And then I asked one of my professors, and he basically said the exact same thing. I said, okay. And then I got to it, and it was actually the type of accounting that I really enjoyed. Like from the classes I had taken, it was a lot of the very interesting stuff, calculations, balance sheets, income statements, cash flow statements, all the stuff that I really enjoyed figuring out how they work. So I started with FAR, and from there, I decided audit, reg, and BEC because audit, I had taken the class at school, and I thought, this actually is pretty easy. I understand it. So let me go for that next since I already have a good knowledge base for it. Got that out of the way. Then regulation, I made sure I had a good amount of time, especially with, this is the middle of COVID, so I was like, okay, I'm not doing much else. I should definitely use this time to my advantage to take as much free time as I have to study. And then, I had BEC left, so I did that one. And BEC, even though I thought it was, and multiple people had told me it was going to be easy, not as easy as people think, and it was definitely challenged me. Even after getting through all 3 other tests, it definitely challenged me and made me keep going and keep up that dedication and that strive for finishing. But yeah, that's the order I got. I took them in.
How long did it take you to pass the CPA exam?
The first one, FAR, I started studying the day before Christmas Eve last year. I took the test on February 14th. The only days that I took off there were Christmas Eve and Christmas, just because I was at my girlfriend's house and I didn't want to take the study material. I just started just to take a look at it. But I studied every single day up until Valentine's Day, which is when I took the exam. She was not happy that I took the exam on Valentine's Day. Then I took a break because I was in the middle of my classes. And then I think I started studying for audit the last week of April, and I took it the first or second week of June. So about a month and a half there. I really started studying for regulation. I would say the last week of June, maybe a couple days before the last week. I took it at the end of August. I think it was August 27th or something. So I had a lot of time there. But coming off of audit and having passed 2 of them, I was definitely lazy for a couple weeks, so really wasn't studying. I had the books in my hands, but I just didn't feel like cracking them open yet. It was summer, it was nice out. I just didn't get to it. And then right after reg ended, or right after I took the test, I learned from my mistake, didn't waste any time, and started right into BEC. Started that at the beginning of September. I took the exam middle of October. So if you cut out all the breaks that I took and just accumulate the time that I was studying, it was about 8 months, maybe a little less, maybe a little bit more.
What tips or advice would you like to share with people who are studying for the CPA exam right now?
The best tips and advice that I could give, which I've definitely touched on a little bit here. The first is dedication. talk to your friends. There's tons and tons of CPAs out there, tons and tons of people who are taking it currently. Talk to them, ask around, what am I getting myself into? Understand it, look at it, and just dedicate the time to it. If you really want to do this, it is, in my opinion, if you start this and you don't dedicate the time for it, then it's an expensive thing to really not get complete. So dedication is the key. Like I said, the information is not too hard. It's really a test of, did you dedicate the time to it, and did you really try to get through this? The second one, time management. Look at what you have, understand where you want to be at certain times, make a study plan, and keep yourself honest to it. So if you want to be at this point, at this day, how do you get there? It's simple. Here I am. I'm at spot A. I want to be at spot B. How do I get there? Keep yourself honest to it, and keep a schedule, because obviously if you're going to be studying, I highly doubt you're going to be able to cut every other thing out of your life. So be organized, make sure you understand where you have to be and when, whose house you agreed to go to, what date you have to take your girlfriend, boyfriend, partner on, whatever, and just make sure that you have your plan solidified so you're keeping everybody happy and staying on track. And the last thing, and this is something that I can't stress enough, I don't think enough people talk to it, is checking on your mental health. Mental health is just a really big thing for me, and there was times throughout the exam, throughout studying, where I was really down on myself, and like I said, I didn't believe in myself, and it was a crushing feeling. It really, really just did not feel good to think, I can't do this. So that's why I say if it's at the end of the day and you're not getting any more material, you're mentally checked out, stop. You're going to hurt yourself if you keep trying to go. If you've been studying for days on days on end, maybe you can squeeze in a break there. Maybe you're not in a time crunch. Maybe you could squeeze in a day where you can just relax. If you haven't seen your friends in days, have barely even talked to them, text them, say hi, see what they're up to, see what you've missed, see what you can make it to. Just keeping yourself first and always checking in on how you're doing is extremely important, because it's going to be a great feeling when you finish this. I know you can finish this, but every single moment that you don't take to make sure you're doing okay is one that you're going to regret. So there was definitely times where I was down in the dumps about how I didn't feel like this was going well, and taking the moment to be like, I'm all right, I can do this, is definitely what got me through it. And I want to make sure that other people aren't kicking themselves in the butt about, I can't do this. Take a sec, relax. Yes, you can. The last thing I got to say is, if you don't think you can do it, yes, you can. Believe in yourself. And if you have any questions, hit me up on LinkedIn, hit me up on Instagram, hit me up on anything. I've helped tons of people. I've helped people I didn't even know, and I'm always here to help. And subscribe to CPA Career Paths, because they're great, and there's a lot of very useful information in there.